your responsibility as a father doesn't stop with a paycheck or when you come home from work. The media has portrayed dads in, TV shows and movies and in all kinds of stuff going all the way back to as far as I can remember. The dad was like the fat lazy slob that went to work, came home, cracked a beer, sat on the couch, and then his wife brought him a plate. And I fundamentally disagree with that. It is just as important to teach your kids emotional intelligence and how to be a husband than it is to teach them work ethic or it is to teach them how to read or do math. I think that that is equally, if not more, important.
Welcome to Dedicated Joe, a podcast for men like me who want to get the most out of fatherhood. Because I discovered that being a dad can be more than just parenting or providing or surviving the chaos. Learn how I, every day, use being a dad to transform my identity and become the man I was meant to be. I'm your host, Joe Carr. Let's go. Well, great to have you here. There's not very many people talking about dad stuff in general, and there's even fewer talking about dads with babies, like first-time dads, because usually dads are too busy when they have a baby to make content, and they start making dad content when their
Yeah.
kid's like 5. So
Yeah.
they miss that baby stage. And so that was really important to me. So when I found you, I was like, oh my gosh, there's another dad out here doing actual baby infant content, like for postpartum dads, essentially.
Yeah.
So just had to have you on.
Yeah. It's not easy, dude. It's not easy when during and I didn't make content until after the newborn phase because that would have been like impossible, especially as a first time dad going through that for the first time. My wife had a C-section, so it was like the newborn phase was rough. But right about the time that was over was when I started, and it's not been easy for sure.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, yeah, what's your story? Like, what made you want to make content? What made you want to be a dad? Like, how'd you become a dad? How'd you become a dad influencer?
I knew I wanted to be a dad from like a super young age. Like that was always a goal of mine. Most kids want to be like a scientist or a football player or baseball. I wanted to be a dad from like the time going all the way back to where I could remember. But I didn't have the best example. My dad has done a lot of growing. We have a great relationship today, but it wasn't always the case. He's a very old school, hard nosed, tough love dad. We grew up, upper middle class. I grew up in Southern California, where it's very expensive, but we went to private school and went to church and went on vacations. And, from the outside looking in, we had, the happy childhood life, but our house wasn't like that. My dad was very rule with an iron fist. My mom was an alcoholic, and they fought constantly. And so, as kids, we were growing up walking on eggshells in our house. I'm the oldest of 4 boys, and all of my brothers and I kind of had parenting changes over time. Like you grow as a parent and change where you are in your life. So we kind of all had different lives, but in the same environment. So I knew really early on that I wanted to be a dad, but I knew I had to do things differently. As I got older and met my wife and then got married, and then it became time to, okay, let's start a family. I knew that if I don't put conscious effort into learning to be different, I will repeat the same behaviors whether I like it or not. So I spent a lot of time, researching how to be different. Like, what is emotional intelligence? How do you act that out? How do you teach it to your kids? Because I didn't have an example of it growing up. I had like this very, like, I only show one emotion, two emotions. It's either happiness or anger. Like, that's it. There are no other emotions on my spectrum. So
She's
she
lucky you
saw
showed
right through it.
happiness. That's like,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
some men, they only have anger and
Yeah.
nothing. It's like
Yeah.
anger and numb. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, so you decided to work on that range.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to work on it quite a bit. And then when we decided to start a family, we found out it wasn't going to be easy for us. My daughter's actually an IVF baby. So we tried for 2 years. And after 2 years, we're like, okay, let's go see doctors and figure out what's going on. So I got even more time than the 9 months I thought I was going to have to research and learn.
And it sounds like your wife really motivated you to do do the emotional intelligence work. Was that also because you were planning to have a baby and you just knew, "I can't have a kid being this locked up"?
She knows my family history, and I think it worried her a little bit as well. And it was having an impact on our relationship. It's hard to be in a healthy relationship when you don't know how to handle like 80% of a relationship, you know?
Yeah.
So
What were some of your
we
main tools you used to build that emotional intelligence?
um practice, admitting, catching myself when I'm doing it, and then like admitting it and saying it out loud, because then it like speaks it into existence and puts it out there that I like, you can't deny it when you catch yourself doing something. But one of my biggest problems that I struggled with was in my house growing up, everything was arguing, yelling, name calling, trying to win.
Mhm.
Jordan Peterson has like an amazing like nobody wins an argument.
Yeah,
Either you
being
win
being
and then you
right.
lose. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You're just trying to prove that you're right. And I still struggle with it today. Like that's my probably my biggest difficulty that has I've obviously gotten better at it, but I still catch myself in an argument trying to win, which is stupid. And I know it's dumb, but
Yeah.
I do.
They say you can be right or you can be connected. Those are your choices. So,
There you go. That's
yeah.
perfect.
So you're
Yeah.
saying you started catching yourself when you were stuck in the, like, I'm arguing to win, being right, and tried to change that?
Yeah, that was the physical part of it, what I would do physically, but I'm not one of those people that, like, listens to music a lot. I do construction, so I spend a lot of time in the car driving to and from job sites, and I'm always listening to something where I think I can learn something from. You go down these YouTube rabbit holes and you find a podcast that you like, and then somebody comes on that podcast as a guest, and then you go onto theirs, and you go down this rabbit hole. I did that for like 3 years straight, and everything was how to break generational cycles and how to not repeat the same behavior you learned as a kid. What is emotional intelligence? How do you show that? How to be in a healthy marriage? All of that stuff. And then it was just putting in the effort to actually try and practice what you're learning.
Yeah. So it wasn't any one specific resource. You just said, I want to learn how to heal generational trauma and feel my feelings. Go Apple Podcasts, tell me what to listen to. And like you just went down the rabbit hole,
Yeah,
listening.
a
Yeah.
lot of it, a
Yeah.
lot of it was rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
follow and click that to that to that. That's
Yeah.
cool. So sort of self-made education.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say so. That, and then dealing with the relationship that I had with my dad was
Mm,
probably another big one.
hmm Which is still real. Like he's still around and you're still interacting.
But yeah, we work together every day.
Wow. Okay. So you're
Yeah.
in his life. So that's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's
Have you had, like, direct conversations with him about these topics, like, the way he brought you up
well,
and
yeah.
your change, and yeah, how's he received that?
Oh, he so my I feel like back in the day, like parents didn't do research to try and like learn new things
Yeah.
about
It wasn't a it
parenthood.
wasn't a thing. It wasn't thought of as a skill to learn. It was thought of like something you're just supposed to do.
Yeah, you
A lot
just
of
repeat.
parents think that still.
Yeah,
They
you
don't
just
realize till they're good in it that it's something. It's like you can't just, like, make it up as you go along, like, you have to learn to ride a bike or drive a car. Like, why would you have to learn to
exactly. You just they would repeat the behavior that they saw, and if they didn't come from a great household, then it kind of transferred over. And they, to their credit, didn't have the same access to information that we do today. So if someone did want to learn more, it would have been a lot more difficult than it is today. But since then, my dad has done a lot of growing. So we're in a much better place where I can, he can call me out on my bullshit. I can call him out on his bullshit. He'll sit and have a 30-minute conversation and spend the whole time listing all the things he did wrong when he parented us. And there was a time when that transition happened when he would get emotional talking about it, and now it's just like normal topic of conversation. Yeah, I fucked you guys up, but
Mm.
it is what it is.
Was
So
that inspired by you and your journey?
I think we were kind of on a similar path together. I think he kind of had a little bit of like a midlife crisis situation right around the same time that I was going down the path of becoming a dad. And I don't know if we fed off of each other or if the stars just aligned at the perfect time, but it was we were on that growth journey of fatherhood at the same time, just in different stages.
When men get pregnant, or their partners get pregnant, they are planning to have a baby. There's a lot of different things to do and learn. I always say the most important thing is to start building dad relationships, like find other dads in your life to build your
Yeah.
dad network. But your thought was, no, I need to make sure I'm emotionally healthy. I need to expand my emotional range. That was like what clicked for you. And that is a really interesting thing to start early, to be like, I need to do it before I'm super triggered and sleep
Mm,
deprived and yelling at
mhm.
my wife and all my childhood traumas being brought up in front of me all on a
Yeah.
platter, to like, hey,
Yeah.
maybe I should do some of this healing in advance because
Yeah.
it's only going to get harder.
Yeah. The making new dad friends I now understand is super important. But that wasn't what was important to me at the time. What was important to me was not messing up my kids. But realizing after my daughter was born that, like, while I have friends and relationships that I've had for 20 years, going all the way back to, middle school, I don't really like, I still love those guys, but I can't really relate. And we don't have really anything in common anymore because my life is being a dad and theirs is not. So now I realize how important that is. And so I've been putting in effort to try and do that, but it
And
wasn't my
also
focus.
men or dads with more emotional range as well as that also, it's something you've had to try to find. There's not a whole lot of us.
There's not a lot of us. I've met a few that have kind of adopted the mentality of my life is now for my kids versus there's a lot of parents that have kids and then try and still keep their life and bring their kids along with theirs, which isn't always a bad thing, but it is if your fun was going to the bars and, hanging out with your buddies and drinking, it's not the best,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So you have friends who at least have said, I know I can't be the same crazy wannabe college kid that I was before having kids. I need to change and
yeah.
grow up a little,
Yeah.
and make my kids more important than my individual selfish needs in the moment, which is, I guess, even like you said, even that's kind of rare. So, but within that, then, but then showing up as my full healed, emotionally ranged self for myself, for my kids, for my partner, engaging with that in this really intentional way, it sounds like is what you have been committed to and is hard to find.
Yeah, that's probably one of the more important things to me is a lot of my content is about fatherhood, but from the premise of being a good partner first, how to support your partner during these different stages and how to be there for her. Because to me personally, I think that that's the most important thing. The whole tone of your house is set by your relationship with your spouse. It doesn't just make your life better; it makes your partner's life better. It makes your kids' life better because they grow up in an environment where they see what a good example of what love is, and they grow up in a house that has love and is full of it and doesn't have, when I was a kid, I was walking on eggshells in my own house. So, and that's not, kids don't deserve that,
Yeah.
they're innocent.
Yeah, I mean, with that infant stage, mom and baby are basically the same. So, like, anything to serve your baby, you have to serve the mom. Like, and trading your community that this as well as if you want to come help the baby, you need to help mom. And so, and moms are physically and then more intuitively and socially conditioned to be parents, to be moms, to understand what kids need. So, I think it makes sense to, like you said, to focus on her, both because of the impact directly on her and the kid, but also just like there's so much to learn from her. Like I can learn everything from emotional range to household management to parenting intuition. So like putting good attention on her and having that strong relationship is also good for me as a parent and as a man.
Yeah, for sure. And my wife is way smarter than me. So I got plenty to learn.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Built Different is your channel. Well,
Yes.
first, like, why content? Like, why did you say, I'm doing all this work and I have this baby and I'm fixing stuff with my dad. I'm working full time. I also need to start an Instagram channel and educate other men about this. Like, what had you want to do that?
I realized that there has got to be other dads out there like me that didn't have any example or didn't have a good example of what a father or a man is in how I believe that it should be. And there's got to be other guys out there like me that want the information but don't know where to start. Like I didn't know. I had no idea. It's just let's just go on YouTube and start looking stuff up. I had no idea where to start or what I was looking for, but I knew I wanted to be better. And so I was like, I'll just start talking on camera, and maybe there's other dads out there, and maybe it could help some people. Maybe we'll even make a little bit of money. It'll pay for some diapers. Maybe that would be cool. And I I wasn't even like a personal social media poster. Like my personal Instagram had like 4 posts and 3 of them were going back to high school. Like I'd never posted stuff. So I had no idea what I was doing. My first video took me like 4 hours to edit because I was trying to learn how to do it. So we started getting um dads reaching out saying, "Hey, my partner's pregnant with our first," and I was terrified. And your videos have kind of helped me see things a little bit differently. And like, dude, when it first started happening, it would make me like emotional to see that. Like, whoa, this is something I'm not taking seriously really at all at first, is helping people.
Yeah.
And then so it kind of this sense of responsibility fell, that I felt that like, okay, I need to start taking this more seriously because people are actually listening. Whereas before it was kind of just like, let's learn how to do this and post out into the ether and, just make videos and see what happens. But then that was when I realized that like, wow, this is actually doing something. And I felt a sense of responsibility to take it more seriously.
Yeah, and now you've got like 30,000 followers. Like I've been doing this
Yeah,
for a
we're
year and a half, and I started with a massive baby food company following, and I'm up to like 200 followers or something. So you've really reached a lot of people.
yeah, it's been we started posting in October of 24, right after like literally right after we got out of the newborn phase, because she was born in July. And it's Yeah, we're at like 65 on TikTok and 30 on Instagram and Facebook. It's crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, so great. So tell me about a built different. Like how'd you choose that title? What's that mean to you to be built different?
Well, I realized that it was helping people. And then I got a sense of fulfillment and pride in the fact that what I was doing was actually helping dads. And I realized that that was an overwhelming sense of accomplishment, fulfillment that I had never really felt before. I didn't have a childhood that was filled with a lot of praise. When I started taking it more seriously is when like the mission really started to develop, and I realized that okay, I'm not just posting, I'm actually trying to help people. Trying to teach a dad that your responsibility as a father doesn't stop with a paycheck or when you come home from work. I think that the way that the media has portrayed dads in, TV shows and movies and all kinds of stuff going all the way back to as far as I can remember, the dad was like the fat lazy slob that went to work, came home, cracked a beer, sat on the couch, and then his wife brought him a plate. And I fundamentally disagree with that. I think that there is it is just as important to teach your kids emotional intelligence and how to be a husband than it is to teach them work ethic or it is to teach them how to read or do math. I think that that is equally, if not more, important. And to me, being uh, built different would be a dad who doesn't just stop by providing a good financial life for their kids. And while that's super important, you can't not do that. You have to go out and work hard to provide a good life for your kids. But I think fatherhood is a lot more than that. And so when I started to grow a little bit and develop more of a mission, I had to give it a name. And so it was built different. At first, it started off as Taylor First Time Dad. When I first started posting videos, it was just first time dad, like, here's how you change a diaper, here's how you swaddle. And it was little stuff like that. And then as it grew and developed into something more, then I had to give it a real name. And so that's where it came from.
Yeah, I think when I started this too, I thought it was like a lot of practical stuff. It was like, these are tips. This is the baby carrier you want, and this is how you hold the car seat so that so that it doesn't hurt your arm, and this is how you pick up a baby so it doesn't strain your back, and so like stuff like that. That's like just nobody even talks about any of that stuff. Like there's no practical tips, for moms or dads really. Like there's all this pregnancy stuff, all this fertility stuff. And then there's raising older children stuff. There's all this like, childhood stuff, but like so little for that postpartum phase. And I think that's what I discovered too, was so much of the practical will come, you'll just figure it out, but you won't just figure out the emotional stuff, the identity,
Exactly.
the identity shift. It
Exactly.
changes your identity.
Hmm.
And that's kind of like what I want, uh, to sort of being dedicated is like, I'm all in, like my whole life is in now on being a dad. It doesn't mean that everything else in my life ends or stops. It's just that now everything else I do in the life I do as a dad. And like I'm dedicated to like being kind of a dad first, a father first, a husband, and dad also I think implies partner and husband,
Yeah.
and committed to my family, and letting my identity change in that way, and what everything that means. What were the identity shifts that you discovered, like, so you're becoming built different? Like, how'd your identity change? How do you tell men to approach that?
Um, the biggest well, there's two sides. So there's the biggest identity shift that personally happened for me, and then there's what I try to tell men to do. In my content, I typically approach it from there isn't one primary parent. A lot of times mom ends up being primary parent, which when early on, baby is not just prefers mom, is attached to mom, so they develop this relationship that you don't necessarily get the opportunity to in that same way. But I think that it's also your obligation to try and establish it as much as you possibly can by taking on as many things as you can early on. And I think that starts in pregnancy. I think you can start practicing that behavior before the baby gets there by putting your wife's pregnancy needs and postpartum needs first. You know, I think that, after a baby is born, just because mom has to breastfeed doesn't mean that she should be up doing it by herself or that she should be handling all the nighttime feeds because you got to go to work tomorrow. There was me working construction, a full time job. I still was up for every single feed. It's not permanent. It's not forever. You're not going to die. You're going to be tired. You'll be okay. It's not worth that extra hour of sleep to miss out on those opportunities. And especially if you end up bottle feeding yourself, like, dude, you should be doing as dad as many of those feeds as possible. That's kind of what I preach in my content. For me personally, my biggest identity shift was I, like I said earlier on, the only two emotions that I knew how to show were anger and excitement. Really, I don't even know if it was real joy. It was more just excitement. I'm happy in the moment about this specific thing, but I didn't have any of the other emotional spectrum. And so the biggest identity shift, I think, is having emotional awareness and being able to express your emotions in a healthy way. And believe me, still growing, still working on it, not perfect. But I think that that's because I believe that it's so important to teach your kids those things. I have to model it in my house, like the example that I'm setting as a father, having a daughter, I'm going to be who she looks for later in life, whether I like it or not, the good and the bad. And so I need to set that example. And the same goes if you were to have a boy, you're teaching your son how to treat a woman because he's watching how you treat your wife in that house. And so being able to grow emotionally was the biggest identity shift, I
Hmm.
would say, that I personally underwent.
Yeah. And for me, I had a pretty decent emotional range compared probably to the average man. But I created this life that was so full of joy, with my family and my business and abundance and all that, that I couldn't feel as much joy as that I should have felt. Like I'm like I was still lonely, I was still unhappy, I was still negative, more than I wanted to be, and uh, and I had more range than joy and anger, but like I wasn't feeling that joy all the way, and so that's when I discovered that the emotional range was needed, not just for my kids, but for my own enjoyment, for my own happiness, to
Yeah.
enjoy this. Like I was teaching my daughter emotional range. I was supporting my wife's emotional range to a certain extent, but like I wasn't benefiting from that personally. The biggest benefit being able to feel more happiness, more joy on a regular basis. But there was also physical stuff, migraines and back pain and joint pain and stomach stuff that turns out to all be related to emotional flow, like that if you're locked up and I'm tensing against emotions, has all these physical. So there's just all these like benefits to a man to have the full emotional range that I feel like our kids and our wives inspire us to do.
Hmm.
They could be a great motivation, but I think we should be careful not to say we're doing it for them because it's for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it benefits us equally, even if it's not necessarily putting it into I personally I didn't put it into perspective as doing it for myself. I did it as putting in perspective it's doing it for them. And then they in turn the whole family's life got better, including my own. I used to have tons of stomach problems too. Like go to the hospital, get tested, try and figure out what's going on, scared of the results. It just doesn't happen anymore. And I did nothing to change it other than be
Feel your feelings.
yeah, other than yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Feel sad when you're sad. Oh my
Yes.
gosh, novel idea.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. What do you think is like a lie that dads are being sold right now?
Ooh, money and power equal peace. Is the old saying, money and power doesn't buy happiness, but I would flip it in today's world to say peace. Because, in this social media age, what we're getting fed on our phones is a curated algorithm of highlight reels. And you see these families with these nice cars and beautiful homes going on these vacations. It's all you see is the highlight reel that people put out. But you don't see the argument on the way to the five-star restaurant. You don't see the toddler meltdown that happened on the way to the vacation. You don't see the full spectrum of what reality really is. And I think whether you're trying to make ends meet or you're going on a vacation to Hawaii, there is still the reality of life. If you can have a happy, positive household and a happy, positive marriage and relationship with your kids, that's where peace truly comes from.
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh, Financial goals, especially as a man and having aspirations, are necessary. I understand, but I think that what the lie that people are being told is that part is what brings the peace.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah, that's good. I think it's that parenting and being a dad is a sacrifice. I've heard a lot of parents talk about sacrifice. It's something my parents really talked a lot about. I've given up so much. I've sacrificed so much for you. As if I like asked them to do it. I was like, I never asked you to do anything. Like you chose to have me. Like I never like I'm not a burden to you. Like you're a burden to me. You brought me to this world. Now you got to help me out.
I didn't
Uh,
ask to be born.
yeah, right. So it's like this idea that it's a sacrifice, as if like we have kids for some other purpose. Like it's good for the world. I have a kid because they're going to serve the world. Like no, like we have kids for us. Like they're a joy and a benefit to us. And if and there's a ton of work and there's a ton of struggle. But so is like going to the gym. you know,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
working a really hard job. Like, we don't like, what a sacrifice to go to the gym to lift weights. It's like, no, like I like lifting weights. I get stronger. It's fun. It's hard. It's adrenaline. So it's like, why don't we approach our families that way with like, oh, this is tough and it's hard, but man, it's like the best work. Like I'm getting better at it.
Mhm.
I'm getting stronger. The result is so much joy and pleasure, and that I'm giving up anything for my family, I think, is the wrong attitude. And
Yeah.
there are trade-offs. Like I can't work as much. I can't go with the boys as much. Like it's not like there's not trade-offs. It's just that it's a what a joyful trade-off. Like I'm how happy it is to choose my kid
Yeah.
and family over whatever this other thing is, and how much more that will actually benefit me in the both the short and the long run.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I think there's a lot of things that I would call them electives that I was into, I guess. Um, I've always watched the NFL, right? I love watching football, played fantasy football with my friends, and now I don't anymore. And it's not because like anything's wrong with watching football or doing fantasy football. It's just those are it's not a sacrifice. It's I would rather spend that 2 hours playing with my daughter at the park than watching a football game.
Yeah, it's
You know?
more fulfilling ultimately, even if it's more
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's more
Yeah.
fulfilling. Heavier weights are harder,
Yeah.
but like
That's why you get stronger.
they build more strength. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, strength, you talk about discipline, leadership. What do you see as the role of a dad being a leader without being like authoritarian, or it's all about me? How do you draw that?
Uh, I mean, this goes back to me trying to win arguments. My wife is really good at trusting me to make decisions for us. And I have made plenty of mistakes, and she still trusts me in the vision that I have and the direction that we're going. And she believes in it and wants those same things. So we make decisions together rather than me being a authoritarian leader in our house. I would big life decisions, I would think of myself as the leader of our home, and being the one that walks us down the path hand in hand that we both decided to go down
Hmm.
instead of this is what we're doing and this is what's happening because I said so. And I don't think that that's a healthy relationship to have with your
Mm.
partner.
So you're the captain of the ship, but you both decided together on the destination.
Exactly. Exactly.
And if either of you want to change the destination, that is up for debate at any moment. It's not like, well, we
Oh
said
yeah.
this and I'm the captain and we're going. And they're like, no, I kind of want to go this other place. Okay, well, let's look at the map and change it.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
you're rallying the crew and, setting the sails and
Exactly.
so forth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Leader without authority, being a dictator in
Hmm.
our
Yeah.
home.
I sometimes
Yeah.
think of it almost as like a facilitator, like
Yeah.
I'm kind of, or like a shepherd, like I'm like, helping everyone agree, figure out where they wanna go, what they wanna do. It's for their benefit, it's for my benefit, but I'm not like, there's no force in it. I'm never using violence or force to make them. I'm just, either attracting them towards it or, like, helping draw out their own desire.
Yep. Let's figure out how to get there together, and I'll make sure we get there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. Walk me through what you've learned. How do you sum up, like, let's talk about pregnancy. When you meet a guy who's pregnant and he says, like, what are the things I need to do? What are the most important? What's my role in pregnancy? What is a dad's role with this pregnant partner?
Um, I think the most important key point is to make sure that she feels um, to make sure that she can trust and count on you. I think and then there are a lot of things that you could do to do that. But I think a huge part of her pregnancy is how much stress and anxiety that she's under because those emotions have a massive effect on pregnancy, whether people like it or not. If you are, for example, I have a brother. Um, my mom had a really tough pregnancy with him, and it was, and now my brother has. You ever met anybody that has like sweaty palms and sweaty feet? It's like an actual medical condition and they can get it fixed, but my brother never has. But we are convinced that that was like a symptom of the difficulty and the stress because my brother has pretty high levels of anxiety while my mom was pregnant. And so I think you as dad, if you can do everything in your power to minimize those things while she's pregnant, you've done your job during
Hmm.
pregnancy. So if it's, something as simple as foot massages or helping her get in and out of the car, if it's helping her make the big decisions leading up to pregnancy so that she's not planning a baby shower by herself and creating a baby registry and ordering all the stuff and doing the nursery, sh- you might not be able to carry the baby, but you can help carry her through the pregnancy.
I love that. I think men, we love checklists. We just want to know the formula. If I did these 10 things, I'm a good dad. And so I think that's like when I ask that question, it's sort of like I unconsciously, I'm like, in pregnancy, I need to make sure that we get the car seat and we need to make sure that I have the go bag packed and I need to make, these kinds of things. And so, but what you're saying is like really all those things only matter if they have a specific impact on your partner, that the result isn't a practical result, it's an emotional response from her, which could be gotten at in a million different ways. There's infinite choices for how that could go, and some of those things like the car seat and the go bag won't matter at all to her, and you could do them and she still won't feel held by you,
Yeah.
and you could not do them and she could still feel well held by you. And so like really, I think that's like one of the first steps of being a dad is like letting go of the checklist and the
Mhm.
formula and saying like I have to ask in the moment and
Yes.
respond to
Yeah.
my wife and to my kid. Does their ever changing needs, because what they wanted yesterday isn't what they want today,
Yeah.
and it's just maddening. It's like, but this worked yesterday. Why won't it work today? There's something wrong with
Yeah.
you. Like, no, that's
Yeah.
you're just changing.
Communication. Sitting down with your partner and not just saying, hey, what do you need or what do you need help with? What's stressing you out today? Like, what are you the most worried about right now? And it's, God, the baby shower is in 3 weeks and we haven't completed the registry to send it. Okay, so now you have an actionable step to take that's going to relieve that stress and anxiety. But you're not going to know what those things are unless you talk about it. you know, us as dads with checklists, I could go down the list in a week and just boom, 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 knock it all out. But if that's not what's actually causing her anxiety, then yeah, you're being helpful, but you're not doing what she actually needs.
It's such a small tweak from what do you want me to do today? What can I do for you? Which puts all this like mental load work on her to give us a checklist, to what is stressing you out, like a feelings question, which women are more, it's a little easier to answer. And then when she says, oh, it's the baby shower, then you can say, okay, I can now make a checklist of how I can handle the baby shower stuff for you. But like, it's what a powerful but small change from tell me what to do to tell me how you're feeling and then let
Mhm.
me figure out what to do.
Yeah, exactly. And that is communication. That is to me what actual leadership is. Instead of putting it onto her to give you a checklist and letting her lead by telling you what to do, what's freaking you out right now? And then be the leader and figure out how to fix it yourself.
Hmm. I love that. I'm gonna
Yeah.
try that. I'm gonna try that tomorrow. What's stressing you out? It's like a good question I could ask my wife every day. There's always something.
First time you ask, she's going to go, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, there was some meme I saw that's like you could ask, what could I do to make your day joyful today? Like, what could I do to
Mhm.
give you joy today?
Yeah.
Which is like the flip side of that. It is still a little bit of like a checklist question, but it's framed in a her emotion way. It's like, what would bring you joy rather than what could I do so that I can know I'm a good person? What will I do to get your
Yeah.
approval today? And
Exactly.
instead of like, no, what would genuinely bring you joy? But it's probably almost easier to answer what's stressing you out. And then if I handle
Yeah.
that, probably would also bring her joy. So
Yeah, that would be a lot harder question for us to answer. What's stressing you out right now?
yeah,
Rather than what do you need? What thing do you need me to help you do? That's an easy question for men to answer. It's like, oh, actionable steps. Yes, do this, please. Thank you.
Mhm, mhm.
Versus an emotional question, what's freaking you out right
Yeah,
now? It's a lot more
right.
difficult for us, but it's
Nothing,
easy
I'm
for them to
fine.
answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably I'd come up with a better answer if I really thought about that. There's something she could do that's even more powerful than, like, make me coffee, but, whatever I come up with is probably gonna be pretty mundane. So it'd be good for me to think about that too, but so that's great for pregnancy, but is it basically the same thing for postpartum? I mean, we talked about serving her. Is there more there's a lot more practical stuff that must be
There's
done.
there's a lot more practical things in postpartum for sure. But I think that that same mentality of the, what can I do that's going to help you the most? Or what are you the most worried about right now? That carries, I mean, honestly, you could keep that question for the rest of your marriage and you'd be a happy camper. That could go back to before having kids too. But postpartum, there is for sure a lot more practical things to do. And I had my wife ended up with a gestational diabetes and then an early induction it had all kinds of complications, 48-hour labor, end up in emergency C-section. I had a crash course round one of the holy shit in postpartum. But there's a
How
lot of things.
Yeah, how would your wife say you showed up in that? If I asked her, "How did you show up in that crazy birth?" What would she say?
I would hope that she would say that I did everything that I could possibly do. And that's what I would hope she would say, because that's what I tried to do. And I'm not perfect, and I'm sure there are things. She tells me a story now where there was one time uh, I was changing a diaper and she was like, no, I'm just going to let it go. Just let him do this. I know there's mistakes that I made for sure, but I would hope that that's what she would say.
Mhm. Yeah, that she'd say you showed up all the way. Like, was there stuff he could have done better? Probably, but he was at his max. You cannot argue that he held back or was passive in any way.
Looking back on the experience, that 2-month period, um, I took 3 weeks off of work. Other than if I could have possibly taken more time off, that's about the only thing that I could have done differently. I think I gave it everything that I had, for
Yeah,
sure.
that's great. Yeah, I think when with again, birth, there's lots of practical stuff, and I have whole episodes on this, like Man's Guide to Birth and what you need to know about birth and what your role can be, and Man's Guide to Pregnancy and stuff that are more checklists. But yeah, I think it does come down to make the birth your own. Like, this is not my wife's birth. This is also my birth of my baby. And so how do I get the most out of this myself? So show up fully, energetically, emotionally, not to survive it or get it over with, and maybe to support her, which, like, I think similar, like you said, what as long as she feels held and supported, that's like a key role we play.
Mhm,
But, like, ultimately, yeah, for me, not for her. And if she's not feeling held and supported by me, not getting mad at her for that, like, it's very hard to do. So as long as I know
mhm,
I'm doing everything I can and I've
mhm.
showed up as fully as I can, that's the only way to do it right, is to just do it all the way.
Yeah, do it right, do it all the way, and be the calm in the storm,
Yeah.
because it's chaos, especially the first time. You don't know what the hell you're doing, everything is new, and you've never not slept so much in your entire life, and everything, the whole world's upside down, right? I remember I didn't know if it was 2 in the afternoon, 2 in the morning, or, you have no idea what's happening. How long have I slept in the last 3 days? I have no idea. If you can get that right, I think you'll be alright.
Yeah, getting it right is just being all in, just letting
Mhm.
it take you,
Yes.
like letting
Yes.
it consume you.
Mhm.
Surrendering to that, surfing the wave rather than getting knocked over by the wave is the art form, but we get knocked over and over. I mean, to learn to surf, you get knocked over
Oh,
all the time.
becoming even a husband, a father, there is no permanent ultimate destination. We're just going to continue to try and be better and strive towards something every single day. But there is no end game to this.
Yeah, and we're a dad forever. It's
Yeah,
a
you're dad forever.
process, not a destination. Getting them to
Yeah,
18. Oh, I'm done being a dad now. Like no, then
no,
you just it's forever. and then you're a granddad, and and so forth. So your dad's still clearly letting it transform him. That
Oh
he's
yeah.
still learning. It sounds like he's maybe learned more in your adult life than he did as in the kid life.
I think he learned more in the last probably 3 years than he has in his entire life. And I don't think he would argue with that either.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, what is something you really hope to pass on to your daughter and second future kid that you're having? Like, what do you really hope they take away?
Big on emotional intelligence. I think that that's probably first and foremost. Independence and confidence, I would say, are my two things that are the most important for me to pass on. I want to make sure that my kids can be independent and are confident in the fact and confident in who they are, confident in who they came from, confident that their parents love them, and confident that they can do anything.
Mhm. Yeah, and how they go together. It was maybe a bit counterintuitive for some that emotional intelligence, or you might say emotional sensitivity, and independence or and confidence, that it's actually you're more can be more confident or more independent if you have a great understanding of your feelings
Hmm.
and what you need, rather
Yeah,
than like shutting down your feelings to appear confident,
yeah, yeah.
or to shut out other people so that I'm independent, but
Hmm.
because I don't need anybody. I'm not affected by anybody,
Hmm.
right? But it's like true independence is like, no, I can be affected by other people and still be okay.
Yes.
That's more truly independence, or like I can be afraid and still do it anyway. Like that's real courage or real confidence.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So your
yeah.
2-year-old is she in that sort of starting to get into the tantrum phase where she's very big
Oh,
emotional expressions?
yes, yes. We've been there for a little bit already,
Yeah.
but she has more personality than anybody I've ever met, and
Mm.
she is not afraid to show it.
Yeah. So how
So,
are you starting to work with that and teach that emotional awareness now while it's so explosive?
oh gosh, it's so difficult because they're she, she's already absorbing and learning how we respond and how to respond, how to get what she wants. She's already learning all those things at almost 2. Dude, toddler tantrums are hard. They're hard. They're hard. But if it's I think it's important to distinguish, what is an actual need and what is a toddler tantrum meltdown. And when they do have toddler tantrum meltdowns, how to bring them back to center without just straight giving in and giving them what they want, because that's not the right answer. I'm hungry is an actual physical need. Okay, let's get you something to eat. But no, I don't want that. I want cookies is a meltdown that we can solve and bring you back to center. And so we're trying to learn with her a little bit on how she
Yeah.
responds
What does
to it.
solve mean? Like, how do you solve a meltdown? Like, what is that?
Well, that's what I mean by bring her back to center. Calm her down. And she might not like the end results, and she might say, "No, I'm not eating that." And then, "Okay, we'll try again in an hour, but you're not getting cookies.
So
Sorry."
you hold the boundary. How do you create calm from the meltdown?
Um, a lot of redirecting, a lot of toddler redirecting back to something else and then bringing them back to the task or the meal or whatever it is. Breathing. Let's take our big breaths, and then she'll be crying and screaming, and it'll kind of snap her out of it a little bit. There's not really an exact science to
It sounds
melt.
like it's just attention on her. Like you're just
Yeah,
present with her through
yeah,
it. You're
yeah.
not,
Sit.
you're not sacrificing the boundary. You're not teaching her that she can scream and get what she
Mhm.
wants.
Yeah,
Which kids actually like. They don't want to be in charge of their safety. Like it's scary for them if they can change your mind. They don't want to be able to change your mind. They want to know that you are going to hold their safety no matter what. Even in the moment they want the cookie, they feel better if they know they can't manipulate you
yeah, yeah.
into
You're not
giving them
you're
the
not
cookie.
getting
Yeah.
You're not getting the cookie, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
sit here with you until we're calm again, and
Yeah.
then we'll try and eat the apples
Your
one more
feelings are
time.
okay. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
I have a lot of content on this because I think it's such a critical it's such a hard time, so parents really need tools. But it's also such a critical time for learning these emotional skills and a great time for us to practice our emotional, these inner tantrums that we have all the time. And so I have an episode on dealing with toddler tantrums, and then I love I love the Big Little Feelings program. I don't know if you've seen that or not. But really powerful.
I haven't seen that one,
Yeah,
but I
Big
do
Little
need to
Feelings
check
is
out the toddlers.
they're online. The Big Little Feelings is an online resource. It's like about 100 different 8-minute videos, so you can watch them
Oh, wow.
whenever. So it's very easy to consume. It's like
Okay.
$100 or something if for life for like all this content, and they have lots of stuff on potty training and sleep training and all these different things. But their tantrum and emotional awareness is what they're known for. The Big Little Feelings.
Okay.
And really powerful kind of 5-step process that you do with the tantrum. But
I gotta
I
check that
think
one out.
the most important thing for me learning with them was that the feelings actually have nothing to do with the trigger. So just
Mhm.
giving them what they want isn't actually going to work because their bodies are growing so fast that the emotion is the discharge of energy that's being created by all this growth. So they must tantrum, like they have to do this. And
Mhm.
the whatever triggers them is irrelevant. So don't try to address the trigger because it's absurd, whether it's a cookie or the example I use, my daughter got really upset that she couldn't touch the moon. So like it's like things like that is like like I can't fix that for you, but I can empathize, and let you have a tantrum about it, right? Like
Yeah.
cry as much as you need to, and
Yeah.
and just be there with her and hold space, and just saying be grounded ourselves and breathe and
Mhm.
make it clear that her emotions are welcome and that she's safe and she can have the feelings all she wants. She's not going to get the cookie. She can't touch the moon, but I understand that you're sad about it. It's okay to be sad. And, I use that with my inner child, and I use that with my wife, and I use that with my with my employees, like I'm not going to sacrifice the boundary, and like it's okay that you're upset about it, and I'm in connection with you while still holding the boundary. I think
Yeah.
is a real art form that toddlers teach us,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great.
and for
We don't
ourselves
have
in
to
life. Yeah,
we don't have to you don't have to sacrifice the boundary, and you don't have to get mad that they're upset. It's
exactly.
hard, and then it's real easy for a toddler to get under your skin, it's real easy. It's so difficult, and it takes active practice to try and, "Hey, honey, it's okay. It's okay. We're not gonna have a cookie right now, but we can here, let's breathe. Your feelings are fine. It's okay to be upset." It's but they're like,
Mm.
in your face.
I had a behavior motivation specialist on that talked about the science of human psychology and motivation and kids specifically and how you motivate kids. And I was really struck by if you get, they know how to get under your skin. If you get mad, they will do it more because they like the attention, even though it's negative attention. They want a reaction from you. And so one of the worst things we can do when kids do stuff we don't like is get mad or is make a big deal out of it. Like,
Mhm.
it's just like, hold the boundary. No, you can't do it. Yes, you can have your feelings, and it's done. And not
Yeah.
like over explain or get really worked up, or even punishment. The problem with punishment is that they will actually do the thing to get the punishment because it's attention from you. Like it's just
Mhm.
another way that they can elicit a response. So if
Mhm.
they can control you, they will, even if it's negative. And
Yes.
it doesn't, they'll just do the behavior more. Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
irony. So like, yeah, like learning to not care, which of course is impossible. But like we can't not care, but we can change our behavior. We can stop obsessing over it,
Yeah.
and not we
Mhm.
can support the feelings without making a big deal out of it. Yeah, that's great. Uh, if there's one principle you want dads to take away from this, like one idea or principle you want dads to have an impact on their families.
The most important thing that you can do is to make it a everyday priority to make your relationship with your partner, your spouse, something special. Because I think that that's where kids learn how to love. I think that's where kids feel safe. And I think that's where kids feel safe in an environment to be able to to express their emotions and grow as a little human when they're in a house full of love. And it will make your entire family's life better, including yours, if you prioritize being curious, continuing to grow, and continuing to try and be a better husband. I think all of the other stuff falls into place. If you can get that one thing right,
Hmm.
everybody will be happier.
Yeah, it's like being a dad. So much of the work, so much of the thought around being a dad is like our relationship with our kids, how I father
Yeah.
my kids.
Mhm.
And husband is like another identity. But what you're saying is there's no distinction. How we treat our partner and the relationship we build there is paramount and will trickle down to the kids.
Yeah, I don't think those two relationships are separate. I don't think you're you think of being you know, a father solely about your kids. I don't think you can separate those two things, you know, and for the good or the bad. You know, I don't think you can have a bad marriage and a great relationship with your kids because your kids are watching how you guys treat each other and vice versa. When everything's great and growing and happy and loving with your partner, that's what your kids see. That's the environment that they grow up in, and that's how they learn how to love their future partner and who that's going to end up being. And I think that that's paramount in helping little kids grow up in a healthy relationship.
And it makes me regret all the times I've fought with my wife about our daughter. It's like we argue about what is the right thing for her. And like ironically, the right thing for her is for us not to fight. And you know, whether it's in front of her or not, like we don't fight in front of her about that stuff, but like still like she feels that it trickles down. And my parents fought about us all the time. So many my wife says that basically having kids ruined her parents' marriage. From her perspective as a kid, the marriage was ruined by the kids. And so
Wow.
she was committed to not having kids because she just didn't want to have that like ruin her life essentially. And like you know, it's so sad. So when we developed our relationship and she was clear that, oh, actually I actually believe we could have a good relationship and have a kid, that was the unlock for her. It was like, oh wow, I have a partner that I believe this is possible with, and it's been great. But I think that's a really key thing, that if you're fighting about the kids, you're missing the whole point.
Yeah. Yeah. The entire point. You can have discussions about it. You could even maybe disagree about it, but to fight over something that you both want the absolute best for. You both love this child more than anything else in this world. And rather than you're fighting rather than coming to sitting down and having a discussion about what direction we want to go in or what we think is best.
Yeah, to become or create disconnection in any way. Because
Exactly.
disagreement is
Exactly.
huge. I mean, you're going to disagree, discuss it for
Oh,
hours,
for sure.
compromise, negotiate, decide you do it one way, I do it. And there's all kinds of ways that can work when you disagree about parenting styles. But ultimately, yeah, remembering that fundamentally our unity is the most important thing for her, even if we disagree, that as long as we're in connection and not, I guess, like coming back around to not being right. Like, there's no way to know what's right for the kid.
No,
Like, it's impossible to
no,
know. Like, you're just guessing. And so, what you're saying is, but you can know, is, do I feel connected and in harmony with my partner? I can know that, and
yeah,
that is fundamentally the only real right thing. So if
yes,
I
yeah.
have that, I'm doing it right. It doesn't. None of this shit, rest of the shit matter.
Yeah, you might still make the wrong decision and go down the wrong path, but you guys are connected and you guys are making decisions together and realizing after the fact, oh shit, that was the wrong decision. But we did it together rather than I was right. And then it's even worse when you were actually wrong in the end.
I don't think it's worse than I think it's worse than I'm right. At least when my wife's right, I can be like, okay, you were right. She's happy about it. But when I'm right, that's the worst. I get punished for a long time if I win. So better to
Oh, shoot.
lose than to win. Better
Yeah.
to just be connected and nobody win, and we all win. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think
Or
that's the
lose, but we're going to do it together.
yeah. Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Well, yeah, this has been awesome. Really appreciate you taking the time to do this for the world and to help men and reaching those dads that are built different or can build themselves different. For everyone, I'll put in the show notes the link to the Toddler Tantrums episode if you want to check that out. I have a Reparenting Ourselves, Healing Our Inner Child episode that I think would work really well. It's a big part of our emotional process is talking to our own little inner child that gets triggered by our current children, and learning to feel for me has been huge, to feel essentially his feelings. And then I have a couple of different relationship episodes I'll drop in there. I have our relationship coach came on, and I have another dad who has two under two in a great relationship, which is like unheard of. So
Nice.
you'll put that in there. So check those out, and please like and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps me reach more dads. Also check out Built Different Dads channels. Like and subscribe on his as well. Drop in the comments the thing you want your kids to take away. I think that was my favorite question of this episode. What do you want your kids to learn from you? What is the most important thing? And then share this with a dad in your life, and enjoy building yourself different, and stay dedicated.